Hey everybody, it's Allison here with New Little Life. Today I've got some tea and I'm ready to sit down and talk with you about the top 10 tips for breastfeeding moms. So I actually asked in several Facebook groups, I'm in a lot of them, tips that moms would have for new moms, things that they wish they had done differently, or I don't know, any general advice. If you could go back and do it again, what would you do? I got tons of good ones. So I narrowed it down to my top 10 and I'll go through them pretty quickly for you. And then at the end, I'm just gonna throw out some other advice from moms. So this video is gonna be chock full of just like tips and suggestions and hacks to make your life easier. You don't wanna miss it. Okay, before we get started today, I just need to show you my new teacup because I've been dying to use it in a video. I'm a huge Friends fan, so tea in the Friends cup. Okay, so I'm gonna get comfy here and I'm gonna pull up these tips and these other suggestions from moms. So here we go. Oh, the number one tip for you is to know your resources and get help early. So you have several options for getting help with breastfeeding. You have your pediatrician, your OB, hopefully you have an IBCLC in your area. There's lactation help at your local WIC office. Sometimes there's home health nurses that can come to your home and help you with that. So yeah, I encourage you to make a list of your resources before you have your baby so you know who to call if you run into any struggles. And IBCLC would be my number one recommendation for you, but don't be afraid to get a second opinion if you need to, all right? Know your resources and get help early. And that doesn't just apply to breastfeeding struggles, that also applies to postpartum depression. If you're not feeling right, go and get some help. It's just not worth it to wait too long. Okay, number 2 tip is to be prepared. And this could mean taking a course or doing some research, kind of knowing a game plan. I actually have a course that can give you just the breastfeeding basics. It's a cheap, just breastfeeding basics course. It's about an hour and a half long. You can do it right at home. It's self-paced. I'll put a link down in the description for you. It will really help you to just get some base knowledge in your brain so that you kind of know what to expect, know what to watch for, things that are normal, not normal. It's an excellent resource, so I'll put that down below. But if your local hospital has a breastfeeding course, take one, please. Sometimes you can even schedule a consult with a lactation consultant before you have your baby. You could do that. But I do recommend that you do a little something, read a book. The Womanly Art of Breastfeeding is one of my favorites. It's been a while since I've read it, but I'll also put a link down below for you. But be prepared. You won't regret it. All right, number 3 tip for breastfeeding moms is don't be a slave to the numbers. And what I mean by that is there's going to be a lot of numbers, okay? You've got a clock and you've got your baby's measurements. You've got ounces of milk. There's just so many ways that you could just get lost and caught up. There's apps to track things. How long has it been since my baby's eaten? Are they right on track with their growth thing? And I'm an IBCLC, I'm a nurse, I get it. Numbers are important and it's a really good way for us to evaluate kind of the overall trend of where your baby's going. If your baby's losing too much weight and you're needing to do some interventions, that's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about moms that just get so obsessed with watching the clock for feedings or like pumping and they got like half an ounce less than they did last time, and it just stresses you out, and there's not a lot of need for that, okay? Women have been breastfeeding for a really long time, and they've also always had other women to help them through it. Kind of just relax, take a deep breath, trust your body and your baby unless you have a reason not to. So if you have a reason why things are not working or that you're needing to do something different, then please do that. Otherwise, just trust the process and try to just go with the flow. I know it's hard. You can do it though. Number 4 tip for you is to take advice with a grain of salt. And this kind of also goes into getting a second opinion if you need. What I mean by that is not all IBCLCs are created equal. We all have different areas of speciality. We all have different approaches to things. And this not only goes for lactation consultants, but for pediatricians, for OBs, for nurses. So if you're feeling uncomfortable with the advice or the style of delivery that your provider or LC has given you, There's nothing wrong with getting a second opinion or just kind of trusting your instinct a little bit and going with the flow. If your baby's really struggling and losing weight and stuff, I mean, sometimes you just got to do what you got to do. But for the most part, you have some wiggle room. So don't be afraid to get a second opinion and just take advice, especially from other moms, with just a grain of salt. Everyone's different, and trust yourself. Number 5 tip for you is to find a local support group. And if you don't have a local support group available, I know a lot of places hold breastfeeding cafe. That's what we do in our area. I'm one of the leaders for it, and we meet and we just breastfeed our babies, and we have tea, and we just talk about mom life questions. We commiserate together. It's lovely, and it's really needed. If something like that is not available in your area, or something you can feasibly do, even just a few mom friends that you text every once in a while can make a huge difference, okay? Don't do this alone. No one has ever done this alone in the history of forever, okay? It's not a healthy way to do it. So find a friend, find a support group, go. You need to do it. Okay, number 6, I think. This is a quote that I hear a lot. I don't know who originally said it. Sorry if you're the original owner and I'm not giving you proper credit. It is, your worth is not measured in ounces. And what I mean by that is the amount of milk that you can make or that you can pump or that you choose to give to your baby has no reflection on your worth or your goodness as a mother. So whether you choose to breastfeed or whether you're able to breastfeed for 3 hours or 3 days or 3 months or 3 years, that does not have any bearing on how good of a mother you are or how good of a person you are or how hard you tried. It's just, please stop. The ounces do not equal fantastic mother. And I really want to be very clear on that. Your worth is not measured in ounces. Do what you can. We're all doing the best we can. And everyone's scenario is different. So stop judging other people and stop judging yourself. Give yourself some grace and do what works best for you and your baby and your family and your situation. I think you're awesome regardless of how many minutes you breastfed your child for, even if that's 0. Number 7, top tip for breastfeeding moms is to ditch the all or nothing mentality. It doesn't have to be all or nothing. And what I mean by that is you don't have to be exclusively breastfeeding or exclusively formula feeding. Those are not your only 2 options, okay? So if you have a specific goal in your mind, do what you can to reach it. But also don't be afraid to pivot, and adjust if you need to. Giving your baby some formula in the beginning if they need it or if you want to is not the end of the world, okay? You can still go on to have a very healthy, exclusively breastfeeding relationship if that's what you want. If you are more comfortable with a halvesies kind of thing where you're breastfeeding and you're also supplementing and that works for you, awesome. If that is your scenario because it has to be for right now, also awesome. You are not a bad mom. Things are not going to end and it's not the end of the world. It's okay if it looks different than you imagined. It doesn't have to be all or nothing. If you decide that it's time to night wean, great. Please night wean your baby. You'll likely still be able to breastfeed during the day unless you have other issues going on. There should be no reason why you couldn't breastfeed your child during the day and sleep all through the night when they're old enough. So it doesn't have to be all or nothing. You don't have to wean or be everything. Find a happy medium. Do what works for you. Seriously, it's okay. Number 8, I'm really excited to share this one with you. And this is to have realistic expectations. And the reason I'm excited to talk with you about this one is I recently started, January 1st, 2021, I started a podcast. And the goal of my podcast is to talk with real breastfeeding moms. And we'll probably have some experts on there occasionally because I have lots of friends in the lactation world as well. It's going to be mostly moms sharing with you their breastfeeding experiences, the hardest parts, the best parts, what kind of things worked for them. And I really hope that it gives you more of a realistic expectation of what breastfeeding life is like. It's hard, yes, but it's also doable. We've got tips from other moms. It's going to be really awesome. So there's a few videos on the channel, but of course I'll put a link down below for you to the podcast. Also, just chatting with other moms and seeing what it's really like. And if you can kind of gain a better understanding of what you might be up against. Actually, now that I think about it, I have a video series. When I was 7 days postpartum with this last baby, he's 4, almost 5 months now, but I was 7 days postpartum and I sat down and did some videos of day 1, day 2, day 3. And to give you kind of an idea of what to expect, I had just done them myself, so it was really fresh in my mind, so that might be a good resource for you too. Number 9 tip is specifically directed for working moms or moms that plan on going back to work, and that is to protect your pumping time. This is really important because you can't skip pumps. You have to keep pumping to maintain a supply when you're away from your baby. And if you don't protect your pumping time, if you get lazy or if your work is a high stress work or fast moving, and you're like, I don't have time to do this, I'm going to have to do it later, you're going to run into problems. So if you actually have the goal of pumping and breastfeeding your baby for a longer term, you need to protect that time. In the States, there are laws and federal laws and state laws to protect you that your employer needs to abide by. Don't be afraid to use those to your advantage and protect your pumping time if that's going to help you meet your goals. The last one on my list before I give you just quickly some tidbits from other moms is to trust your instinct. And I know I've already touched on this one before, and I'm not going to dwell on it too long, but you know more than you think you do. And you know your baby better than anyone. And so if something is just really not sitting right with you, then do something different or get a second opinion like we talked about earlier. Trust yourself and your mothering instincts because they're better than you think. And I don't really know what else to say about that or if you'll believe me from just this little YouTube video here, but I really believe that moms know what they're doing on a really primal level in a lot of scenarios. If you are like, I have no clue, I don't know, then get help, okay? And then trust your gut. You know, if you get some advice that doesn't sit well, go somewhere else and see if it is a similar thing that keeps coming up, or maybe it was just a rough day for a provider that said something the wrong way. And, you know, I've had that before where I've come away from talking with someone and been like, man, me as the professional, I'm struggling today. I'm a human too. And I probably didn't say that as kindly or as clearly as I should have. You know, that happens. So trust your instinct. You can do this. I know you can. Okay, so I want to share with you a few of the other tips from moms that didn't make it on the list just really quickly because I think there were some great suggestions here. And other moms have good ideas and stuff sometimes I forget to think of, so let's just run through these really quick. A lot of them said to limit visitors. This has been fun with COVID, because it's kind of forced a lot of people to limit visitors, and moms have actually been loving it and saying, wow, I'm really glad that we were forced to limit visitors. So just do that from the beginning. If you don't want a ton of people around, say, come visit later. Get a second opinion. We already talked about that, but a lot of moms had that advice. Oh, that's a good one. Do less in the beginning. Less housework, less, cleaning, cooking, washing. Just focus on your baby. A lot of moms said that they went back to their regular schedule too quickly. Do less. I love that advice. Get help, especially if you have any signs of postpartum depression early. And I know you can make it through postpartum depression on your own. Moms are strong, moms are resilient, and it's hard to ask for help. And I believe that most people can make it through that just on their own, but there's no reason to suffer. You don't get a gold star for suffering through it with no help. So go get some help. Talk to someone, get some medication, get some help. Ignore comments from non-breastfeeders. So moms get a lot of unsolicited advice about their breasts and the way they use them to feed their babies. Just ignore that. Okay, find a support group. We talked about that, but tons of moms said that that was really helpful for them. They didn't even know they needed it until they knew that they needed it. So just do it. A lot of moms regretted offering convenience bottles. So this kind of goes along with the pumping. This next one says introducing the pump too soon or even at all. A lot of moms regretted that. I just filmed a ranting video where I talked about that. You can go watch that if you want. But a lot of moms did regret giving that convenience bottle, and what they mean by that is just a bottle that they were like, I don't have time to breastfeed you. Here's a bottle. It can affect your supply. Babies can develop a nipple preference. It can just do a lot of things, and a lot of moms mention that. So I thought it was worth noting. Several moms said that they wished they'd had their tongue or lip ties revised sooner. So first you have to diagnose that. So if you're struggling with breastfeeding or you think your child might have a tongue or a lip tie, go get it checked out. I was surprised at how many moms said that they wished they had it fixed sooner. Because you can wait, and if it's not causing a lot of problems, sometimes they're okay to leave. But a lot of moms were like, I just should have done it sooner, and it was way better after I should have just done it. So little something there. Try sideline nursing. This is a game changer. Someone should have told me this before my first one, because he was like 5 months old or so before the first time I tried nursing lying down in bed. Oh, it's amazing. Sleep, don't sleep. I don't care. If you're in a safe spot, fall asleep. I do a lot. But it is so relaxful, and so you get so much better rest feeding your baby that way. Pumped ounces are not indicative of supply. I love that. We talked about how your worth is not tied to supply, but also the amount you pump does not mean that's what your supply is. So if you pump 2 ounces when you missed a feed, so maybe you're away from your baby or something, you're like, oh my gosh, I only have 2 ounces worth of supply. That's not enough for my baby. No, that doesn't mean anything. That's just how much you can pump. That's not how much milk you have. That's how much you can pump on that random day at that time. It's not indicative of supply. Don't be afraid to nurse in public. I love that one. The culture is getting better. I know, especially in the States. Here in Europe, I don't think they really even care. Never had any problems with it. But in the States, things are getting better. Don't be afraid to give it a try. There's ways to be modest if you want. If you just need to whip it out and feed your baby, by all means, there's laws to protect you. Don't be afraid. A lot of moms wish that they had done it sooner and not stressed so much about it. Oh, this last one is a good one. Get your snack station set up. So some moms will have like little caddies of nursing supplies and stuff that they can take around the house with them while they're breastfeeding. Throw some snacks in there. Nipple cream if you need that, a water bottle. I have a video on gift ideas for breastfeeding mothers that I think would also help you come up with some ideas for your little nursing station package. Get a little tote with a handle so you can carry it around to wherever you're breastfeeding. That's an awesome one. So I promised you 10 tips for breastfeeding moms. I think I gave you loads more than that, so I apologize if this video ended up being long, but I hope you have a better idea of breastfeeding, what to expect, some tips to make it easier, and I'd love to see you on the next video. Bye.